Welcome on behalf of the members of the New Jersey Legislative Black Caucus from Trenton to you. I'm your host, New Jersey State Senator Ronald Rice, and Chairman of the New Jersey Legislative Black Caucus. It's good to be in your homes once again today, and I'm very happy to have a very valuable young lady with us who's very beautiful as well. And I say valuable because of the information she's going to provide to you. As you know, we've had discussions on this program about, transportation of human beings put into slavery, folk working on the streets in bad situations, and all kinds of abuse and violence of people in general, whether it's violence and domestic violence, whether it's young children being abused. It's important that we continue to provide you with information that can be helpful for you, and things that you can look for as well as indicators when these abuses or violence may come about. And so with that, we have a young lady with us today, and her name is Aziza Kibibi, and she's going to make sure she pronounced that correctly for you when we finish. But she's the founder of an organization known as Precious Little Ladies. And I think that's a very appropriate name for the story she's going to tell you and the kind of conversation we're going to have. So, Kibibi, Miss Kibibi.
Hello, Senator Rice.
How are you? It's good to have you on the program.
Thank you for having me.
And I'm going to ask you to do a couple of things for me today.
Okay.
Number one, I want you to straighten your name out for the public so they can make sure that it's pronounced correctly. And number two, I want you to tell us a little bit about yourself, growing up, etc. And then we're going to talk about Precious Little Ladies and let you share a wealth of information with our viewers.
All right, I like that order. So my name is Aziza Kibibi. Actually, it's Aziza Kibibi McGill Ayinde, but I go by Aziza Kibibi because that is my author name. I am a published author. I'm also a student at William Patterson University. I'm double majoring in broadcast journalism and media productions, and I'm minoring in psychology, hoping to go back for my master's in psychology to help supplement all of the work that I do. I have 5 children, all very beautiful. My oldest is 23. My next child, she'll be 21 in March, so I'm excited for that. I have an 18-year-old boy. My daughter, who would be 17 now, she passed in 2010 when she was 9, and my youngest is 10. So they are my pride and joy, and most of everything that I do is for them. What I like, I'm a chef by trade. I've been cooking for almost 20 years now, professionally. Yeah, I started cooking when I was really young, and that's all I wanted to do. My dream was to open a restaurant eventually, but things happen throughout the years, and even though I cook and I cater and I bake cakes, the restaurant has been kind of put a little further into the future. So that's just a little bit about me right now. As far as my childhood, when I was 8 years old, my father started molesting me, and by the time I was 12, he deemed me his sex slave. So I had my first child from my father when I was 15 years old. Over the years, I've had 4 children for him, and I didn't escape him until I was 23. So that's why I started my organization. It was a struggle getting back on my feet. My children were taken away from me by the system once I started the escape process, and I spent 3 years getting them back. Throughout that, I had to learn how to socialize, I had to get a job, I had to get an apartment, do everything that I could do so that I could provide a life for them. So there I was in the world, learning how to deal with guys, which was a process. I eventually did get married and had my youngest son. We're no longer together. I'm divorced now, but I am driven to prevent what happened to me from happening to others.
So that's a very interesting story, and I know that our viewers probably look at it and share some sympathy, but I believe that you don't want them to share sympathy. You want them to share some realities.
Yes.
And I think that's important. That's why it's so great to have you on this program, and the members of the Legislative Black Caucus certainly appreciate the fact that you are coming to share with us, because we read so much about human trafficking, and a lot of people don't understand what that means, and a lot of people believe that human trafficking is someone who is born from another country, not folk who actually live here, born here, raised here. They believe that it's some stranger bring you in. they don't recognize oftentimes it's your own family and family members and friends of family. And so you started a program called Precious Little Ladies, which is a beautiful name, by the way.
Thank you.
Can you tell our viewers about Precious Little Ladies? Is the reason you started is because of what occurred with you as a youngster?
Well, yes. When I was still with my family, when I was still being abused, one of the things that was not established in my household was the bond between me and my mother. My mother loved my father, and she was afraid of him. When you have those two emotions together, it could be detrimental to the rest of the family. So I didn't have an ally in my mom. She knew what was going on the whole time. So in starting my program, our mission is to strengthen the bond between mothers and daughters, to combat child molestation, domestic violence, incestuous assault, and sexual assault. So that was the main reason, because I could see and I remember the issues that was in my family. So I chose to try to create programs that would deal with those specific issues. I believe that parents are the first teachers of children, and even though in my case my father was the offender, there are many other situations where it may be another family member or a teacher or a doctor. And actually 68% of child molestation cases are committed by someone that is close to the child in some form of fashion. So I think it's important that parents and people in general educate themselves on the resources, the effects of child molestation, therefore they can protect their children, and also have an open communication. I believe it's very important to have an open communication about sex specifically with your child. They should not feel uncomfortable to come and ask you questions about sex, and if they're comfortable talking to you about the things that affect them in that way, then if something happens to them that they don't like, they'll be comfortable talking to their parent about it as well.
So, in your family, how many children were there? Were you the oldest child?
I was the oldest. My father has had in total, including his offspring as a result of the incest, of 23 children that we know of. There might be more, but that is what we know of. As far as those that were abused, it was 5 girls, myself included, but I'm the oldest.
So where are the 5 girls now? Are they still around? You can touch with them, or they are out of state or in state?
Yeah, we are in touch. Some of them live in the same city that I do. We try. They have asked me to not really speak about them, so in respect to their privacy. But when we got together to report my father in 2006, the first case that went to court was for one of my younger sisters. Yeah, and he received 40 years for her. And then I went to trial next, and he received 50 years for me. So in total, he's serving 90 years in prison right now.
How old is your father?
My father is, wow, I believe he is 50. He might be turning 60 this year.
Oh,
yeah.
Young man.
Yeah.
Just your life. Now, were you born here in New Jersey? Were you born in this country?
I was born and raised here.
Okay.
My father is from Tuskegee, Alabama. Yes, a lot of people think that he is from another country, but he is African American. We can trace our lineage down back to our Scottish slave owners. On my mom's side, she is from London, but my grandmother is Jamaican. So the maternal side, there's some Caribbean, West Indian, and on my dad's side, African American.
Okay. The story is very fascinating, as I said before. Now, hopefully our viewers are learning something from this tale. Okay, so now, Precious Little Ladies, where are you located, and how do people get in touch with you? Tell us more about that. Is the program? Tell us about the program itself, okay?
So, Precious Little Ladies, right now we have established 4 programs. One is called Girl, We've Got You Covered, and it's a provisionary program where we collect health and beauty products to donate to women living in domestic violence shelters. And I started that literally while I was in ShopRite in East Orange, reminiscing on an incident where where I was trying to convince my mother to leave my father. And one of her reasons was that he would either find us, there was nowhere for us to go, and that we could not pack everything. So in doing research into domestic violence shelters, I found that they don't really provide health and beauty products to the women. And of course, when a woman is trying to reestablish herself, basic necessities like hair care products and makeup and things like that are really important. So PLL has decided to collect donations, as well as purchase some of these items to donate to different shelters and outreach programs. So we partner with the Essex County Family Justice Center we give the items to them, as well as Access Family Services in Newark and one other organization in Passaic County. And we're just trying to contact as many of those types of organizations as well, so that we could try to provide as many items as possible to the families that need them. So that's one program. Another one we have is a survivor support group that we hold once a month in East Orange at East Orange Public Library. We are looking for a space that is unique and dedicated to PLL, where we could then give the survivor support group more often. And we also have an empowerment fair that is actually coming up, where we invite members of the community, women and their children, families in general, to participate in an event that helps them identify the resources in the community that could help prevent these things from happening, and also help support and help them to cope if they do happen. So we have that slated for June. And it's going to be a very impactful event because there is nothing like it. Everyone comes out, they have the vendors, they get the information, but they also participate in 3 workshops, one on sexual abuse awareness, one on self-defense, and one on social media etiquette, which I'm sure with the youth is very important in protecting young people online. So we are just growing and branching out more and more, and as we navigate the system and meet more people, we're really identifying other needs. Like, for instance, for me, when I escaped my father, all of my children were born at home. My father delivered all of my children, so they did not have birth certificates or social security numbers. I had to provide all those things for them. That was one of the requirements that social services in the state of New Jersey I had to do in order to get my children back. So I had to contact Vital Statistics in Trenton and go through a whole process to prove that I gave birth to these children on my own. And a lot of times when you have a young woman who has chosen to deliver a child born from incest, she tends to, if there are incidents where she does it in secret. And then once that is done, then how do you report the child being born? So we want to help teach women how to go through those processes, as well as signing up for social security numbers. Another issue that I had when I went to try to get assistance or try to get child support for my children, there was no protocol on how to deal with a woman that has children born from a family member. They had no idea how to deal with it. So we're working towards getting that kind of training for the caseworkers, and also affecting some of the policies so that there is a specific process established for women that have children born of some form of incest or abuse.
Let's have some conversation here, because I'm learning something myself, because I've never had this brought to my attention. I've been around long enough to understand incestual relationships and all the different types of births that take place, whether it's rape, whether it's out of wedlock, whether. But the government, and that's what the Legislative Black Caucus, that's what we focus on in terms of helping people in general, in particular people of color who seem to have even more problems navigating the process, or navigating government, or even getting information. So you had 4 kids.
Yes.
Okay. So now your father delivered the babies.
Right.
Therefore, he signed no papers any place. That's correct. So when you went to the state, you're going to get help when someone is telling you to go to Vital Statistics, but technically Vital Statistics doesn't have anything because you never went to a hospital or documented anything. That's
exactly.
You or your father. So at that point, what happens? And the reason I'm asking is because the question that's in my mind is that you accomplished something, but is that because someone was gratuitous and got you through it, or is there a law that governs you? Because if it's not, then we need to be looking at structuring some laws and some processes.
Right.
This is what I'm hearing. So walk us through what happened. So you don't have any paperwork. They direct you to some place that you never heard of before. Trenton Advice Statistics. Okay.
Right.
What happens then?
So Trenton directed me to go to my county clerk's office. So I came here to Newark. I went to my county clerk's office. I had to get a form that was called a delayed birth report. Once I did that, I filled out who the parents of these children were, and then I had to get it notarized. So it was stamped, it was notarized. I then had to send that back to Vital Statistics in Trenton with any supporting evidence, whether it be a phone bill, a rent bill, a receipt. I had receipts from baby clothes that I had purchased wherever my son or daughter was born. And I sent that back to Trenton. I did have a contact in Trenton once I went through the very long phone wait, pressing many numbers. I finally was able to speak to somebody, and these were the instructions that she gave me. So then that was my contact. After back and forth, constant interviews over the phone, I had to explain every step of where I gave birth to each of my children. And then they sent me a report of no birth form. So there's actually a certificate that says that there is no record of this birth. I had to continue to try to collect as much evidence as possible. I also had to get notarized letters from any witnesses of the birth. In this case, it was one of my sisters who was over 18 at the time. And then I had to send that information back to them. And then after about 3 months, I finally got a certificate of delayed birth.
Okay, so
it took about 9 months to finally get.
That's long, because in the interim, then it means that you cannot get any benefits or
Right.
any help from the system. Is that correct?
Yes.
So in the meanwhile, are these 4 youngsters still in the arms of the state,
Yes.
the diocese, or whoever?
Yes. And I was
Okay.
paying child support for them.
And ultimately, you got them back?
Ultimately, I got them back after 3 years. After about a year and a half, they came out of the foster care system and went and stayed with my aunt and my grandmother, my maternal aunt and my grandmother. And then that's when visitation started. So then I was allowed to see them and take care of them on the weekends. And over time and many interviews and reports, then I was able to get them back. And I was told that it was 10 days before they would go up for adoption. So I literally got my children back just before my time was up.
So technically, there need to be a process in place that's a lot easier, if you will, to access and quicker, right? So we need to have more conversation about that, maybe in my office or sometime, because I want to find out how we can tighten it up.
Okay.
The process. I am on the Human Service Committee, by the way, Health and Human Services. So hopefully my staff will make a note to get back in touch with you to deal with that. Make a note, staff, please. Okay, and they'll give it to me tomorrow morning.
Okay.
Okay. And then once we get past that process, then we need to figure out how to prevent once someone report that the children is actually theirs, but they don't have any means of proving it right away,
Right.
that we put some type of process in place that those kids can never go up for adoption until there's a final resolution to the problem of the parent.
Right.
Because you almost lost those kids.
Yes.
10 days, God was just with you through the whole process, to be quite frank. You delivered 4 kids, okay, at a young age at the house. So did the family member, you said the mother was very close to the dad, so she was aware, but what about other family members? Was there any other explanation as to all these kids in the house? I mean, was that something,
Well, we moved around. When my father first started molesting me, we lived in a multi-family home with my grandmother, with my maternal grandmother. So we had a separate apartment. After my father was having regular sexual intercourse with me. Just before I got pregnant, he purchased a house in East Orange and he renovated it. Before it was renovated, he moved his family in East Orange. He started limiting the contact with my maternal grandparents and my family before we actually moved. We wasn't allowed to speak to my grandmother anymore. I was homeschooled, so I was not in the system as far as having the opportunity to speak to other adults, to I had no teachers, no social work, no guidance counselor to contact. We was just in the house most of the time. As time went on, my father even limited how often I went outside. I wasn't allowed to go outside the gate. He did not want me talking to boys or anything like that. So by the time we moved to East Orange, we just had this nucleus family that did not go out anywhere without him. And there was always some form of reporting. Like my siblings were raised to be watchdogs. Ultimately, if I did anything outside of what my father's instructions were, then they would report to him what that was. So when we moved to East Orange, we live in East Orange, there's no heat, no hot water, no electricity, and my father taught us how to sheetrock and tile and paint, and we rebuilt the house on our own. Now the interesting thing is that this house, my father got a grant from the city of East Orange to renovate the house. And every time the inspector would come out and inspect the place, he would not come into the attic, which is where everyone was sent and kept quiet until the inspector left. So, yeah, we lived in the house until it got struck by lightning and it burned down. We lived in that house for 3 years, and I had my first daughter there.
So what happened when the house got struck by lightning? I'm raising that for a reason. You know why I'm raising that, right?
I know how you're raising that. Well, and it's not exactly what you think, because it was still many years later that I was finally liberated. But the house got struck by lightning, and we actually moved in with my father's best friend, who was an East Orange police officer, and the police officer did not know what was going on, but he knew that Aziza, who he's known from when she was 14 years old, suddenly had a child. But of course, him being my father's friend, I did not have any trust in him, So we stayed there until just two families living together in one house. There's going to be a problem. So we was living with him for about 7 months, and then my father moved us to South Jersey. So now there's even more distance between us and the families. My father did keep communication with his brother and his mother, but when I got pregnant, I was made to wear large clothes and walk hunched over so that any family members that did come around would not notice that I was pregnant.
So, the lightning to me, it was an indicator to your dad, okay, that God don't like ugliness, okay, and his time will come, and it did come. So that process is another one, because basically you lived in servitude, you were in bondage, you were enslaved, and we read about so many of those stories on TV, but there's always some white female who's been abducted and taken to some other state, and etc. But it happens in our own backyards, and I think as neighbors and family, we should pay attention, particularly to young people. And when young people are trying to communicate with us, we should pay attention to that too, because oftentimes, there's a story to be told, and they're just reaching out for help. So we know your mission, and we understand why your mission is so important to the community, just from the story itself, as to why you're trying to get this done. Do you have any partners in this process at all? I mean, who's helping you? Are the funds coming in to assist you with your programs? Talk about your partners.
Well, we actually just partnered with North Jersey Federal Credit Union. They gave us a donation as well as access to their facilities. Until we get our own facility, we can use their boardrooms and some of their training facilities. And recently, actually, Mayor Ted Green of the city of East Orange, he is in full support of the empowerment fair that we're putting on. So we have identified partnership with the city of East Orange. We received a donation last year from Uber Technologies of $6,000, but the funds we are working on because we have to continue to raise money. Our budget right now is a little over $65,000, but for what we have planned coming up, especially over the next 5 years, it needs to be increased. And even that $65,000 is mostly in-kind donations and volunteerism. And like when I speak, I do a lot of public speaking for organizations. I don't charge. Everything comes out of my pocket and the little that PLL has. And even my executive manager, Brenda McCoy, she came on recently to help with the marketing, strategic marketing, and to expand capacity. And she is volunteering. She's working nonstop and she's not getting paid. So those people that are helping us is doing it out of dedication and the kindness of their heart. So yeah, funding is a problem for most nonprofit organizations. It's a challenge.
It's a challenge, but you have a unique story, and you also have some uniqueness about what you're doing, and it can always be crafted and expanded, etc. But I think it's important. So, are you getting any corporate grants? Have you been in touch with corporations?
We are working on that. We did get a small donation from Investor Savings Bank, but it was very small. So as we continue to build relationships, we're just exploring all of those options. We plan to reach out to Jet and Boxed and Audible to help with the Girl We've Got You Covered program because, of course, they have resources and even an overflow of health and beauty products that could be donated. We did reach out to Walmart, but they have a very structured way of how they donate items. I don't think it's items, it's actual funds. But we're just trying to figure out, how can we get these items to give to the women. And one thing we do have some collection sites. So we have some churches in the community in Newark that helps to collect donations. Family and Friends, Omega Psi Phi fraternity. So just over the course of time, we've kind of built a network of people and organizations that help to donate.
How long has the organization been in existence?
Since 2015.
Okay. Did you sit down? Do you have any type of business plan or that you put together that's structural?
Yes, we do.
Okay, so once again, I'm asking my staff to take notes. We need to have some conversations. And what we'll do is, Legislative Black Caucus, as chairman, I'll try to see if we can point you some directions and maybe even get some people to sit with you and have some conversation.
Yeah,
they may not help, but at least we know they're the kind of people you should be talking to.
Right.
Because oftentimes there are corporations or foundations that are helping, that's looking for organizations, nonprofits that fit into their niche, if you will, of social corporate responsibility. In fact, before this program, the program we had before, the young man who was here actually came from that kind of environment, and he's going into his own business, and he's looking to help strengthen nonprofits. In fact, staff take another note to put me in touch with the Leadership Newark program person who was on the show, and I'll put that person with you because he may have some directions for you too, or may be willing to work with you, pro bono until you get situated, etc. Since he's interested in nonprofit building capacity, he said. Okay. So there may be a marriage there, etc. So we'll try to work, me personally, on behalf of the members of the Legislative Black Caucus, with you in that vein. I just find this so interesting, and at the same time sad, and it gets me angry when I think sometimes about how we live and how we treat each other and how our own members can do things to us, whether it's taking away $1 from us without asking permission, or or abusing the house when we're not there. How do family do it to family? How do we do it to anyone? And so that's sad. So talk about the family empowerment fair.
Yes.
What is that going to be like? That should be interesting.
So the Family Empowerment Fair is it's scheduled for June, and it really is going to be fun-filled because the thing is, speaking about sexual abuse, especially the exploitation of children, it's uncomfortable. It's become taboo. So PLL has taken the position where this needs to be made a regular part of the conversation. That's the only way that we are going to find solutions. So we have set up this event where we invite the community out. It's fun. There's going to be a DJ. There's going to be the vendors there. And for those, it's open and free to the community. But we do have, for the workshops, a pre-registration. So there is a limited seating for the workshops because we just don't. We have to raise the funds to provide more workshops. So in this instance, this is our first one. We're going to bring everyone out, and the workshops are actually incentivized. So in order to try to avoid the idea of, a family saying or a mom saying, well, I'm not ready to deal with that yet, we want to encourage them to come out anyway. So after they complete 3 workshops, sexual abuse and self-defense are mandatory, then they get a gift bag that has gift cards to encourage further bonding. So it would be like a gift card to the movies, or for them to go get their nails done, just other activities to just continue the process of opening up conversations, spending time with your children and talking about these things.
Sounds going to be a real good, fun day.
Yeah.
Okay?
Fun, educational, inspirational.
You mentioned a couple of things.
Mm-hmm.
Number one, you were homeschooled.
Yes.
Who did the schooling? Your dad, your mom?
My mom and dad homeschooled me until I was 11 years old. After that, I was self-taught. So really through reading. And I also taught my siblings how to read and write. At 13, my father stopped all education. It was actually against the rules for us to learn. But when we moved to our house in East Orange, being that most of the time, me and my siblings, when we wasn't working, we spent time in the attic, I would take that time and sneak to continue to give them lessons. But it was our secret. He didn't know that it was happening. And I would create worksheets for them to write, things for them to trace, and whatever books that we did have from when I was learning, I taught them from there.
The reason I raised that, I know our viewers would agree, you're very articulate. Very articulate. You speak so well, and you're so structured in your speech. And I'm saying, okay, homeschooling, you abuse you, but they're teaching well, okay? I'm not trying to figure out how that fit, okay, et cetera. But I can see you did it on your own. You had some foundation work at home, and you did it on your own. And now you're doing your college thing.
Yes.
Are you working? Do you work and go to school, or you scholarship? You have grants? How's this work?
I am an entrepreneur, so I cater and I bake cakes. I actually just made a cake in the shape of a Gucci bag. Yeah, everybody thought that it was a real Gucci bag. So, but yes, I'm in school on scholarships. I've received probably about a total of 6 scholarships. One of them was $15,000 from an organization called Optimus International, and other than that, I am PLL every day, 24 hours a day. But I also have a radio show on WZYE 95.9 FM out of East Orange, and that has become. It has great potential of being an income source. So we're building, but that would then be considered my other job, which is what my son says.
So, what year of school are you in?
I will be graduating in May. So I am from William Patterson University. So I went to school after my last child from my father died in 2010. She had 2 genetic disorders, spinal muscular atrophy and phenylketonuria. She ultimately expired from the spinal muscular atrophy due to respiratory distress. It was bittersweet because I was dedicated to her. I was dedicated to taking care of her. But then after she passed, it gave me freedom. Mm-hmm. Excuse me.
move on and to get things done so the rest of the young people can have an opportunity.
Yes, and that's when I went to school. So I was 35 years old. I went to Essex County College. I was there with the Pell Grant, and after the trial for my father, and after he was convicted, I noticed that a lot of people online, a lot of media outlets was getting some of the information mixed up. At the same time, they were talking about my kids. They were saying that they had 3 heads. You know, it's stigmatized that children born of incest will have some kind of deformity. So when I was correcting everybody and being open about what happened to me, NewJersey.com, someone from the Star Ledger reached out to me and asked me would I like a platform. So from there, an article was written on me. It caught the attention of Katie Couric, the journalist, and she invited me to come to the Katie Couric show. Through the Katie Couric show, Essex County College gave me a presidential scholarship to get my associate's degree there.
Sound like Dr. Young.
Actually, it was Gail Gibson. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So,
all right. So you'll be finishing up your 4-year degree.
Yes.
Now, are you pledging anything?
I thought about it, but I know you don't ask any questions without there being a reason.
We need to make a notation. One of the organizations that work very well with the Legislative Black Caucus and have a lot of programs, but I've talked about some women who are really dedicated to helping people and organizations, are the Deltas. So I just need my members to make a notation. I need to get in touch with my Delta sisters. I'm not a pledge person, but this is an organization that works.
Yeah.
And we have others too, but this one is really committed. They work with the Black Issues Convention. They're board members there. They work with pretty much everything we do. We do things in Trenton with them. But I think that they have some ladies that can not only assist you and move you in the direction, but maybe even have some that can work with your organization as well. They can definitely give a platform for this and get behind action. So it's good. We get some things accomplished. Y'all.
Yeah, I know.
We have ideas.
You see how God. I'm gonna tell you how God works. We went to look at East Orange Campus High to put on the Empowerment Fair, and the gentleman, the principal was supposed to give us a tour, and he passed us on to another young lady who, after the tour we spoke with, she was a Delta. So now I come here and you're suggesting Delta.
Yeah, see, I'm not suggesting pledging. I'm just suggesting
right.
Somebody. I wanted to make sure that, you want the AKA or something before I go right into the Delta, get the colors right, you know what I mean? So now your children, if you will, are they all grown? Where are they at now?
All the children from my father, yes, are grown. My youngest from my father is 18 years old, a boy. My eldest is 23, and my second daughter she'll be 21 in March.
So, do they understand what occurred, or is that something that's not discussed?
No, they totally understand,
Okay.
And it's that's why I encourage communicating with your children. And they know, they understand, whatever trauma that they received from knowing that their mother was raped by our father, we deal with. And they are totally supportive. They are team precious little ladies. My youngest, who is not from my father, he is such a trooper. He's involved in everything. I mean, he's only 10, but because he was coming up at the time that I was speaking out about these issues, he is aware of the things that should not be done sexually. He's aware of what needs to be done to stop it, and he tells his friends. And my girls, they're totally supportive. They're at the meetings with their PLO shirts on, and they, whether it be taking information or passing out waters or cleaning the table, and we have regular conversation about it, and they can talk to me about about every and anything. And it's gotten to the point that even their friends come and talk to me about every and everything,
because
any and
young
everything.
people need someone to talk to, and it's so much bottled up inside of them.
Yes.
They don't know who to talk to, and the parents usually the last one you want to talk to because they never understand either.
Yeah.
They're like, get out of here, go play, yeah. Miss Pearl didn't do that, Ron didn't do that, they just don't have time. I'm cooking. And they're like, okay, so they're bottled up, and we lose them as adults,
right?
As kids as well. Which leads me to another notation for my staff.
You and your notes.
They need to put me in touch with LaRue from the LaRue list.
Okay.
A young lady who I think need to hear your story, and you need to hear hers.
Okay.
Okay. And I think she can help point in some directions too, because of the type of work that she does. And so we need to get together real soon in terms of these relationships, okay?
Mm-hmm.
Now, what are some of your goals for the next 5 years? Are we looking to get a place where you get situated? You're looking at a building, because you can do sheetrock. You can fix the building yourself. I mean, you told me that you know how to do sheetrock. You're a sheetrocker?
Yes, I am. I do the best. I do the best joint seams and spackle and taping. No sanding required. By the time I'm finished, yes.
You can always make it. Between chefing and school, and you can definitely teach because you're so articulate. I'll sit in the class all day and listen to you. I even going to do my homework. I'm going to say, I'm going to get this right, But yes, so for the next 5 years, what are we looking at?
In the next 5 years, we actually, we want to have a facility dedicated to PLL so that we can continue to expand our programs. We also want to have satellite locations. We have been approached as far as South Africa to bring a chapter of PLL to that place. So
I can understand why.
Yeah, right now Africa. Actually, I've just been approached about Haiti. They have an issue there with child molestation, but it's under what's called domestics, where children are taken into the homes of adults and used as servants to clean and cook and things like that. But they're also sexually abused. So we would like to reach out to whether it be the Haitian Prime Minister to see how we could collaborate through there. I also just went to Vieques, Puerto Rico with William Patterson to cover some of the hurricane relief efforts. And PLL, I brought some items from PLL to help give out to some of the moms with children. And I found that the rate there is extremely high as well, the rate of domestic violence and sexual abuse. So in 5 years, PLL really wants to have a voice in those places, at least for now. Also, we want to have a network across the entire U.S. on how to use our models and basically franchising our models so that my unique perspective and my experience can be translated through other organizations. And let's see, what else?
Do you have a support system group? Is there a support system or support network? Because, you were out there all by yourself, basically, and probably no one to really talk to, so you had to figure all this out. When we have people, you get like drugs, they have drug networks and people, they have alcoholic networks, AA stuff. Is there a network, is there a support system group out there?
Well, you mean for survivors or for organizations?
Well, for survivors who are in your position, were situated like you were situated, who come together with others who were situated like you're situated. Is there such a group out there?
If there is, I have not been able to find one. And trust me, I did my due diligence in trying to contact as many organizations as possible to help situations like mine. There is no one organization, which is why I established PLL. And we are big on collaboration because we realize that we cannot do everything. This is a huge issue, and it affects so many parts of humanity and society. Childhood sexual abuse, it could cause not only physical harm. I grew up with asthma. It's actually known, because of the stress that the child is under, to then trigger asthma and eczema. Of course, there's the mental health issues. One thing that's associated with, other than just depression, thoughts of suicide, there's also multiple personality disorder, because the child mind tries to internalize, and then these other personalities are there to protect it. So it's domestic violence is the fourth leading cause in homelessness. So there is so much room to collaborate with other organizations that maybe focus on homelessness or focus on mental health. And that's the network that we're trying to build. Well, then how do we establish a Precious Little Ladies program within your program that would take the research that we have done and the experience that I have and incorporate it into what you have already established in order to make it better?
But some of the organizations that constantly talking and lobbying legislative Black Caucus come from some of those networks, mental health networks out there. In fact, they're talking to me now about some needs they have. And usually, if you get the big organization, they can trickle down to where the others are. And the reason, so technically, then Precious Little Lady is quote unquote the group I'm talking about.
Yes.
Okay, so we need to be directing people of similar situations to Precious Little Lady. Say, look, you're not on your own. There's someone that understands this. No, it's not a group that think they understand. And they do all the kind of stuff. No, it's not just mental health. So you don't have to spend your time at the mental health group and everybody think there's something wrong with you. You need support. You want someone to understand first. So I get that, okay? And so we'll work with you towards those directions as well. Tell our folks before we run out of time, where can they find information about Precious Little Ladies in case they need to talk to you because they have similar stories, if you will, or because they know of someone else similar stories, or because they want to work with you and help your organization grow and spend some time with these Precious Little Ladies?
So we have a website, preciouslittleladies.org or pllnonprofit.org. And we're really big on social media. That's where the young people's eyes are. Everybody's in their phones. So we do a lot of awareness raising on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook. A lot of people also inbox me on Facebook, but our handle is at PLL Nonprofit. And that's one way to contact me. To contact me directly, it's simple. Aziza at preciouslittleladies.org. And go to our website. There is a wealth of information there. Our phone number is there. Our emails are there. And the schedule for our survivor support group is there as well. So information on donating, of course the donate button is there. Information on donating, collaborating, and also our drop-off sites for the Girl We've Got You Covered program is all on the website.
Okay. Now the question, I'm an Essex County alumni.
Okay.
And have you been back to Essex County since Gail Gibson left? And have
I live in Essex County, right?
With the college. Okay.
Okay.
Because they scholarship.
Oh, the college. Okay, yes.
Have you spoken to the new president?
No, I have not.
I think that you should, and maybe there's space that can be used periodically. If it's no more than saying, okay, we'll have a classroom open up for you if you want to bring some folk in, etc. Let's develop that relationship.
Okay.
So I'm asking the staff to take another note.
Okay.
Tomorrow morning, they have to get in touch with the president of Essex County College. They have to get in touch with him anyway. He's new, and I think he gets this stuff, and I think that's important because we can't have our students going through Essex County College and not fight hard for the institution.
Right.
And send them off to get a better education or a higher education, and then not invite them back home and help them when they need help to help other people.
Right.
Okay, that's what it's supposed to be about. So we'll kind of work on that vein too.
Okay.
Now we're in 2018. Now you've been doing this since 2012. You said, is that correct?
I have been since 2013. I literally just started by myself, like collecting health and beauty products. But the organization has been established since 2015.
Okay, 15. So now we're 2018. So where do we expect to go 2018?
For 2018, other than our empowerment fair, we also have another event called the Raising Awareness Kite Flight, where it's a community bonding event, and we get everybody to take our kites that has our hashtags not alone and it's okay to tell and literally raise awareness up into the sky. So we're hoping to get media out there and just really bring attention. I think that's a soft, fun way to bring attention to the issues. By the end of the year, it's speaking engagement. So
okay. That's the music. That's tell our viewers and tell us there's time to wrap it up.
Yes.
Final words to our audience.
Final words. Also, my book, Unashamed, A Life Tainted, it's available on Amazon. And for one day, my daughter's birthday, who passed away, is coming up on Friday, this Friday, March 16th. You can get a free download of Unashamed, A Life Tainted.
Thank you very much for tuning in. I hope this information was very helpful to you. Get in touch with the organization's precious little lady. And I want to thank our guest, Ms. Aziza Kibibi. Kibibi. Say that again.
Kibibi, Aziza Kibibi.
Okay, right the first time.
Yes, you did.
Okay.